Okay, so welcome friends, and thank you for coming and sharing this time with us today. I'm here because I believe this year more than ever, educators must take care of themselves. I'm also here because I believe this is an important year for us to help each other. And so that's why I'm here doing this workshop today. So the little contact information, just want you to know that Morgan will send this slideshow out to you afterwards, and it'll be available on the DOE website. So our contact info and any links that I put in the slideshow will be available to you. Morgan, do you need to change the speaker view? Because I see you.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
So, okay, so here's what I'm going to do.
We see whoever is speaking.
Okay, good. Well, she's also for the recording, but yeah, that worked. Perfect. Thanks. All right, so moving on. So module 1, we decided to start with module 1. It's very, very important. The learning intentions shared in the book were, number 1, I'm learning about the impact of trauma on educators, and I'm learning to take care of myself as I engage with my students. Both very important intentions. And I really thought about the intentions I wanted for this webinar. And so here's my personal intentions. Number 1 is to get us to slow down. When I got the distance learning playbook, I read it as fast as I could. I didn't answer any of those questions because I didn't have time for that. I needed answers. So now this workshop is a really good opportunity to slow down and actually really try to think about and process, reflect with other people. And so that's my second intention, is that we use these workshops as a way to connect and support each other in this process and through what we're going through. Finally, I kind of picked this idea up from a book I'll tell you about in a second, but this idea of hurrying slowly. We are hurrying because we want the answers, we want to figure things out, but we also need to slow down. And it comes from a Latin term, festina lente, which I picked up from this book called Read or Come Home. It's phenomenal. I highly recommend it. If you don't have time to read, get an audiobook. I drive a half an hour to work every day, and I listen to audiobooks on my time. And I love this quote, that we need to recover a rhythm of time that allows you to attend with consciousness and attention. And so that's what I'm asking you guys to try to do in these workshops. And it's what I try to get my kids to do with their reading, is like, slow it down and let's really think about what we're getting from it. So let's take a few deep breaths here. We're going to take 3 deep breaths because we are in the middle of a pandemic. And we are all exhausted. So let's all just do that. There's 1. 3 collective deep breaths. There's 2. And that's 3. We have to keep breathing when we get stressed and tensed and we're going through what we've been going through for months and months on end. We need to keep breathing. We are all exhausted in the midst of this. It doesn't matter how on top of things somebody might seem or how behind somebody else might seem. Right now, every teacher I talk to and I ask how they're doing, they say they're exhausted. It's because of all that we're dealing with. It's because of what we've been experiencing. And in the chapter, it talked about, in the module, it talked about compassion fatigue. But I've also learned about some other things like surge depletion and burnout that I want to add to this. And so to support ourselves in the midst of a pandemic, we have to have knowledge about what we're going through. We have to understand that this is not normal. We have to understand that we are giving a lot and that we need to recognize that that creates stress on us and our families as well. So compassion fatigue was talked about in the book, so I'm not going to spend too much time about it. But, you know, we are educators and we care about our kids and we have so much compassion for them. And in the midst of the pandemic last spring and our kids that we lost on the remote learning shift, we were compassionate for them. We cared about them and we were fatiguing ourselves with how much we cared about these kids we were losing. And we are still doing it to that extent this year, even though some of us have had the opportunity to do some in-person connecting as well. So recognizing that that has symptoms, it makes us tired, it makes us stressed. The other thing, and again, there's a link to an article that talks about COVID-19 fatigue as a teacher, linked there, you can check it out later. This quote is from another article where Terry Bogue mentions that the fundamental trap that causes compassion fatigue is a focus on other people and their needs before focusing on your own self-care needs. The more we care for ourselves, the more we have to give to others. And if we neglect caring for ourselves, we have very little left to give to others. So I learned about this concept of surge depletion, and I found it fascinating. I believe I heard about it from Brene Brown on her Unlocking Us podcast. And surge capacity is this ability in the midst of a trauma or an emergency that we always get this burst of adrenaline, and we can do more than anybody would have ever expected we could do. And that is kind of what we did last spring. We had the surge capacity. It was like, let's take this on. We can do this. It's just crazy, but we can do it. And then there came a point where we became depleted because it continued. And it happens even in an emergency. Right after an emergency, all that adrenaline, people are exhausted. Well, we've had all this adrenaline and we're exhausted, and it keeps going. So we are depleted. This mentions a little bit about what surge capacity is, what I talked about, and it says that humans draw on their surge capacity for short-term survival in acutely stressful situations such as a natural disaster. But in yellow, natural disasters occur over a short period, even if recovery is long. Pandemics are different. The disaster itself stretches out indefinitely. We do not know how long we are going to need to be dealing with this. And then there's burnout, which many of us are feeling at this point in time. All of these expectations and things that are being asked of us, and it is stressing some of us out. And again, Brene Brown brought in some great writers. We've written a book on burnout, Emily and Amelia Nagoski. I put a link there to an article, but the book, I have a friend that got the book and she says it's so, so good. I haven't read it yet myself. But we're gonna try something out to think about burnout. This is an activity I learned about too. You can try it with your kids if you want to. You can write on my screen. So we're gonna try this. I'm gonna ask you to look at our three things: compassion fatigue, surge depletion, and burnout, and to put a stamp at your level on each one where you are right now. So the way that you do a stamp is up at the top of your screen. Scroll to the top. You have to put your mouse on your screen. Scroll to the top of your screen, and it will say that you're viewing Patty Forster's screen. And to the right of that should be View Option tab. So you can follow along. You click on that, there's a little arrow, you click on that, and it gives you a menu where you can choose Annotate. When you choose Annotate, one of the options is a stamp. When you click on the stamp, it gives you options of icons like hearts and arrows, and I don't know what else.
You know what, Patty? I don't see Annotate.
It's not working on this one? Oh, we tried it out today.
We tried it when you launched it on your Zoom. You might have something different in your Zoom.
That's no fun.
I know. I didn't know that. I'll have to look this up. This is really...
a setting. You have to allow users to annotate. We tried it with mine earlier. Oh, it was fun. You guys missed out. Try it out on if you're using Zoom. They can annotate and they can actually put little stamps there. Since that's not working, do you have a poll waiting?
I do. Let me look at poll.
Do a poll again then. We were prepared for plan B. Here it is. We're just gonna sum it all up in pandemic fatigue, all three of these. Where are you right now? Whew. Yeah, quite a few of us are in the middle. I feel like that's where I am, but I'm an optimist, so I probably rank myself in the middle, and maybe I'm a little bit higher than I want to believe.
There, excellent.
That's 40 out of 41. Yep. So 53% of us, half of us, are in at a 3. So we're tired, but we're still pulling it off. We've got one person ready to run a marathon. You probably are a runner, because I would never be ready to run a marathon. And somebody's can barely function. So I hope that some things that we have you do today help you recognize the things you might need to do to help in that area. And about 11 people are at a 2. So we have a lot of us that are exhausted, which is understandable considering. All right, so can I get control of that poll to make it go away? I have to move things around. Okay, so continuing on. Amelia Nagoski, the one of the two authors of the book Burnout, she says the goal isn't to live in a state of perpetual balance and peace and calm, although that's often my goal. Right now, that's hard to achieve. The goal, she says, is to move through the stress to the calm, so that you're ready for the next stressor, because we are going to continue to have stressors this year, and to move from effort to rest and back again, because we have to keep going. We're still in this pandemic, and the pandemic's still going, and some of us will be shifting from remote to hybrid to back again. So we have to move through these stressors and then come back again. So we have to keep making space for that. So my big question then going into this chapter is, how do we move through the pandemic stress and trauma that we're in to calm, rest, and back again? How do we do that? And so Fisher and Frey suggest that we need to support ourselves. We need to be supporting ourselves. And one of the first things in that module was personal support. And I think about, for myself, when I go home and on the weekends, how do I rest, recover, and rejuvenate every time, because I'm so tired in the work week. And so I'm always thinking of what I could do. What do I need to do? What is my body telling me to do? But they also talked about 3 specific things: workspace, routines, and connections, and how these can also add to our personal support. So talking about workspace, to start with, I thought I'd show you my workspace from today. So that's my workspace. That's my stand-up desk, and I have 2 computers, which helps me function a little bit better. I've got my mouse to try to prevent carpal tunnel syndrome, and that's my desk over there. And on my desk, it's not perfectly clean. What it has is the things that I like to have around me right now. So I have books that inspire me sitting there, because they are the ones that I've been researching in over the past year. I have books that I want to read sitting there, and I have things that I need immediately, like sticky notes and a protein drink. And I have a stack of sticky notes of things I need to do. So that's my workspace, and it's what I figured out works for me. And it's really important to figure out what works for you. And another thing I read about recently was this idea of resetting the room. So when I leave a room, I should reset it the way it was. When I leave my classroom, or if I was working at home, I should reset it at the end of the workday to the way it was, so that it's ready for me the next day. And I get a little lazy at home sometimes. I like to sit in my comfy chair with a blanket and a pillow, and I get up to go to bed and I throw that pillow and that blanket down. And so I've been trying to fold my blanket and reset the room more properly, so it's nice for me the next day. So thinking about resetting the room, I think, is important with our workspace. And then that brings us to routines. Routines are so important this year. What routines can we create for ourselves that make our lives easier? Everything we can do to make our lives easier, like having things out where we use them and need them. I take 2 water bottles to school every day, and my routine now is leave them on the counter. They're ready for me in the morning, ready to fill up, versus up in the cupboard, so I don't forget them. It's a routine. I've created it. It works. My routine this year, I started before school started, is to stretch every morning. I've never stretched in the morning in my life. And this year I thought I better do it. I better create this routine. And I have, and it's made a huge difference for me. So what kind of routines can you create to make this year, this moment, work easier for you? I've even gone to, this is my Monday shirt and my Monday mask that goes with my shirt. I just, every day it's the same clothes, so I don't have to think, because we make a lot of decisions every day. So we are going to go in a breakout group now, and we have a prompt. So I want you to think about your morning routine at home and or at school. So when I get up in the morning, I stretch. First thing I do is, before I even get out of bed, I do my back stretches. And then I take my shower, then I make my lunch. So I've got my routine. So what's your current morning routine, either at home or at school? When I get to school, I put my lunch bag in my cupboard instead of leaving it out. And I get my computers out and ready, and I review my lesson for the day. That's my morning routine. What's your morning routine? So you're going to go in these groups.